Welcome back to Ag, Ammo, and Adventure, where the corn's tall, the stories are taller, and the only thing we take seriously is our smoked meat and craft beer. This is Steve Larson, your meat doctor, bringing the excitement, the stories, and just enough questionable hunting wisdom to keep the Liars Club entertained. Today we've got a special one. We're sitting down with Pablo Rodriguez, the musical mastermind behind the soundtrack of this show. And joining him is his wife, Sara Rodriguez, daughter of Verrill and Jackie Bailey, two of our earliest guests and charter members of the Liars Club Hall of Fame. We're talking music, family, Iowa roots, and whatever else Pablo and Sara are brave enough to share with us. And yes, my co-host is still missing. But between you and me, I might know where he wandered off to this time. Let's just say if you hear a distant chainsaw, a cooler lid, or someone arguing with a raccoon, he's close. Sharpen your knives, Liars Club. The Meat Doctor is officially in session. Welcome, Pablo and Sara. How are we doing today?
Hey, Steve.
Hey, Steve. Doing great.
So we highlighted what the Liars Club, that's what we call our friends on the show. They may not know that Pablo is the musician behind the music. So tell us about yourself, Pablo. What'd you do? What'd you grow up? All that fun stuff so we get to know you.
Okay, yeah. Pablo Rodriguez. I grew up in Arizona. I was born in Tucson, and all my family, grew up there, went to University of Arizona, the Wildcats. And come when it's time to graduate high school down there and choose a university, I wanted a different experience. So I broke family tradition and went to the other school, Arizona State University. And that's when I moved over to Phoenix and been in Phoenix ever since here. Just absolutely love it here.
Did you get kicked out of the family?
No, they still speak to me.
Wait. We need to, is that one thing we don't do on the podcast is we don't do counseling. So do they speak to you once a week? Too often? Not often enough? I mean, let us know.
Just about right. Regular amount of time.
Now, were you musical in high school? Were you out for the band or musicals, stuff like that?
So I started playing music even as a little kid. I loved the Muppet Show, so I had like an animal drum kit. I had a hermit banjo, so I was always just curious about music. And then in elementary school, you had to choose an instrument. So it was either orchestra or band. So I chose the saxophone, and that was my first instrument. And played competitively with saxophone all the way through high school, but wanted to learn other instruments. So I tried to learn guitar, but at the time I was like maybe 5th or 6th grade. My hands weren't big enough to do a full chord. So I switched to bass, and because I don't have to do chords in bass, and I taught myself how to play bass by ear, and then circled back to guitar later on, probably right around freshman year of high school and whatnot. I became self-taught again and bought some, I think it was a Garth Brooks or Johnny Cash book because I wanted to learn full chords versus like power chords for a lot of the hard rock at the time. And
wait. What's the difference between full chord and power chord? Because I'm a scientist. I deal in black and white. All right, so you gotta help me walk me through this.
Sure. So full, or cowboy chords is what they call them, which is all in the first position of the guitar, where you're doing the full chord shape. Like this is a G, whereas power chords, a lot of rock and roll has the same position. It's just really just 3 strings, and you're just moving up and down the neck. It's only 3 strings that you're getting from the chords there.
Do you think it was easier to learn on the bass guitar and then go to the 6-stringer? Or do you think it'd be easier to learn on the 6-stringer first? What's your thoughts?
I personally think for me, it was easier to go from bass to guitar because you're dealing with thicker strings. It builds your formation, with the guitar itself. So by the time I transitioned over to playing guitar as well, it was a lot easier to build the muscle memory within your hand of playing the shape of the chords there. So,
that's cool. Now, did you play in college? Did you play at Arizona State, or was it mostly for fun on gigs or at bars or something? Right?
Yeah. So interestingly enough, in high school, I went really far into music. So I played in a family bluegrass band that a friend of mine's family played in. So that's where I learned how to really kind of improvise. In that band, mama played bass, literally the big stand-up bass. Dad played banjo, and then daughter played fiddle and mandolin. and I played rhythm guitar, and that's where I learned how to sing and harmonize. Playing with that band, but I also played in quite a few just like little cover bands, garage bands around. So I was playing like Pearl Jam one day, and then I'd be playing like whatever the bluegrass song was at the moment there. So it was a lot of fun. And then on top of that, in school, I was doing marching band. I was doing the jazz swing choir, was actually in jazz band as well, where I played saxophone and then picked up the bass in jazz band my senior year because our bass player had graduated the prior year. So I had to learn how to read bass clef music at that time. So it did quite a bit that by the time I got to college, I actually was burnt out. It took a break during college, surprisingly.
No kidding.
That's a regret, because that's, if there's ever like a time to play music when you're in college, you know, you don't have as much responsibility. That would have been the time.
I'm still stuck on, is bluegrass popular in Phoenix area, Arizona? I mean, I'd not heard much of that, Pablo.
Mm-hmm.
Is it really?
I would say so.
Yeah, folk and bluegrass, definitely. It depends on the type of venue you might visit, but it definitely is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and back then I was just looking for an opportunity to play music. I've always just loved music, so regardless of which type, if there was an opportunity, I was all about it. And I would travel with them around the state. It's funny, they had I want to say it was a Ford pickup truck where it had one of the camper shells, and the bed actually had carpet in the bed.
Was it lifted too? I mean, was it like a 4-inch, 6-inch lift, something like that?
No, it was not lifted at all. And it wasn't even like extended cab. It was just single cab. And so the instruments, and Erin was their daughter, and myself, we'd ride in the back, and we'd drive around to all these, you know, bluegrass festivals and competitions around the state and play.
What else do you do in the 1900s? I mean, right in the back of the pickup.
The 1900s, 1990s.
This sounds a lot like Southern Iowa, Pablo. Are you sure you didn't grow up south of 80 in Iowa?
I know, right? No, I didn't.
So
I know someone that did, though.
Right. Let's get to Sarah. But my first question to your lovely wife is Pablo was so ingrained in the band in high school. Do you think you would have dated him in high school since he was such in the band?
I mean, I probably would have.
That's too long of a pause. You can't pause that long.
Pause.
It's either yes or
That's
no.
a no.
Right? Oh my gosh.
That's a no.
I was in a band and swing choir, and I was the drum majorette, and so I was very into music as well. So who knows if we had lived a little bit closer than 2,000 miles.
Ain't that the truth? All right, Sarah. So tell us about yourself. We heard about Pablo. Let our listeners know who you are, what you do, where'd you grow up. We know your parents from the first or second episode. Let us know about, and I'm probably going to call you Sarah Bailey because that's all I've ever known you to be. So Sarah, let's know about Sarah.
Absolutely. So I born and raised in Anita, Iowa, a very small town in Southwest Iowa. Grew up with a big brother and a big sister. I am the baby by a long, long ways, but they treat me like one of the family, so it's all good. Had grandma and grandpa on both sides that was able to stay with at any given minute. My dad, as you know, was heavily involved in the corn growers and different organizations throughout Iowa, as well as on the national level. And so they traveled a lot. And every once in a while, I would get to tag along on some of those trips. And I actually got to come to Arizona quite a few times when I was younger. And my mom, once I moved down here, thought the entire state of Arizona was like the Arizona Biltmore. And I assured her that no, I realized that there are many more things in Arizona than just the Biltmore. But I kind of did it backwards, as my mom would say. I came to Arizona when I was 23 rather than 65. So I started my retirement a little bit earlier.
Now, so you grew up in God's country. We got that established. And I worked at Bailey Farms for a while. And I think one of the stories I tell is I was working when Aunt Cheryl was teaching you how to drive a stick shift. And
yep.
I believe I made a comment to your parents. Nobody was safe. Everybody left the road and the driveways just to make sure things were okay.
Exactly. Well, and I had a Volkswagen Rabbit diesel powder blue hatchback that I learned how to drive on. Although that was a much easier manual drive than the Ford Ranger that I tried to drive. That clutch was a little bit stickier.
That's one rarity for the kids here. Both of us can drive a stick shift.
Nice. Well, that
And write in cursive.
Yeah, or in cursive. Yeah, that too.
Now you're telling your age. All right, so just be careful. So Pablo went to Arizona State.
Mm-hmm.
Sara, where did you go to college?
I went to Iowa State. Whoop, whoop.
Harvard of the Midwest. That's okay. I mean, let's just get that out there.
Sometimes ASU is considered the Harvard of the Southwest, so it's very similar.
I'd never heard that before in my life. I think that's fake news right there. But all right, so what'd you both major in? Pablo, Arizona State. What'd you major in? Sara, Iowa State. What was your major?
So I'll start here. Majored as a marketing major.
Marketing, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I was an accounting major with a poli-sci minor.
Why poli-sci?
I was going to be an auditor. I was going to be an auditor for the state of Iowa, which I did work for, but I quickly decided that was not for me.
Well, at least you learned after your first internship or second internship, so you knew early. Pablo, what about you? Did you have any ideas of what you wanted to do with your marketing degree when you got out?
When it came to starting to do this music thing more seriously, back in around 2021 or so, that's where I really started to feel like I started to use my marketing degree and the skills with purpose and intentionality. But otherwise, no, I had the degree, but I didn't really, I mean, there's aspects I used the degree for, but not till more recently did I use it.
Gotcha. So went through college, not necessarily into music or in a band or anything like that, had to take a break. When did you pick it back up and start rediscovering your enjoyment for music? Yeah.
So I picked it up again, I'd say probably around 27. I'm going to be turning 50 in a few months here. And so wrote my first song, and that'll get to later on when we talk more about the album here. Wrote my first song when I was 18 years old. I was a senior in high school. And even in between the break, I still would always kind of just write here and there and whatnot. But I think I really started to pick it up again right around 27. And then played in a corporate rock band for a couple of friends over the years when it was their birthdays and someone was turning 30 back in the day. Hey, could you put together a one-off, cover band? And so I did something for that one. It was the Dirty 30s. When Sara passed the CPA, we threw a nerd party. It was a nerd themed party. And I brought the band that was formerly the Dirty 30s as the Nerd Alert. So through the years, I was still, playing with people, just loved music. And at the same time, I've been writing songs pretty consistently since, I was 18 years old here. So almost 30 years or so that I've been writing music.
Well, you brought up Sara passing the CPA. How did you two meet? So 2,000 miles between you, Iowa State, Arizona State. Now we're in the same conference. Before we weren't. Some claim that we're both Harvard of our area of the country. How did you guys meet? Where did you meet?
Yep. So I was invited to a Halloween party, and it just so happened that Andre Agassi, again, blast from the past, was also invited to the same Halloween party. And so we met, we exchanged MySpace information. That was that year.
Wow.
And we didn't start dating for 9 months because I blew him off, and he'll still bring it up. I'm surprised he hasn't chimed in already.
Well, were you in Arizona already? Is that how it? So you got a job. You left Iowa, God's country, and went down to the Southwest for a job.
Yes, I did. I actually came down here with no job.
Oh,
I moved July 4th weekend in 2001. So I've been in Arizona more than I've been living in Iowa. So I'm almost an Arizonan.
You all are crazy down there. Anyway. So Would you say was it mutual friends, or the party that you went to was it a mutual friend that you both knew?
Mutual friend, yeah. So I had a college friend of mine. Literally last minute, she goes, "Hey, the mutual friend of ours that we met, Sara Monson. There was a party that she had invited her to, and so she goes, "Do you want to go over it?" I said, "Yeah, sure." So I literally had been training to do a half marathon, so I had a Nike headband. I hadn't shaved, and I literally just put on like a dark running shirt and shorts, and I had a tennis racket in the garage, and it was literally because that's all I had at the moment. At last minute's notice to go as Andre Agassi. And I sort of somewhat could look like him at the moment.
He pulled it off.
Yeah. And Sarah she didn't say, so her and two of her girlfriends were the three amigos from the movie with Steve Martin, Martin Short, and Chevy Chase.
Yep.
And I thought she was hilarious. And here's my version of how we met. And so we chatted, but we exchanged MySpace information, and then
what type of? So I didn't do MySpace.
Oh,
what type of information do you exchange? Is it just phone numbers, emails?
We just like pulled up the app and became friends on our mobile phone. I think it was.
No kidding. Yeah.
Yep.
Like addresses, or were you scared one was going to stalk the other one or something like that?
I think it was just our handles.
Our handles it was exactly.
He would call me Lucky Day.
Lucky Day was the character she was at.
And he was at his work at the time. He ended up, somebody misheard his name.
A client called in and said someone named Rob Lowe left me a voicemail. So
hey, there are worse names than Rob Lowe. I'm going to tell you that right now.
So it became Rob Lowe, or known as Pablo. So she called me Rob Lowe, and I called her Lucky Day. And so I'd message her. I said, "Hey, at the party, I said, let's go grab a drink." And she would comment on a picture or something. She's like, "Oh, that's a great picture." I said, "Oh, thanks. We never got that drink." Silence. Nothing. And then like a few months later, something else would happen. She'd comment, and "Hey, we never got that drink," and whatnot. It's literally, I finally had given up at this point. I was just like, whatever. And she had then told me, I put a thing out there that there's a beer festival up in northern Arizona near Flagstaff. That I was going to the Flagstaff Beer Fest. My family's going to go. We all went together. And she told me she was going to go. And she said, "Call me." She never gave me her phone number.
That wasn't part of the MySpace information? Seriously?
No. So
were you
finally
playing hard to get, Sarah? Were you like, if this guy wants to date me, he's going to have to work
apparently.
At it? Wow.
I keep telling him that it wasn't time. If we had gotten together earlier in the time frame, then it wouldn't have worked out. So it was all in due time.
Yeah. Could you blame it on, did it go to your spam folder or junk folder? Could you blame it on that?
Right, the RSS feed. I don't know.
So you were persistent, Pablo, right?
I was, but it was like every few months or so type of thing. And so when she reached out, like, oh, okay. And so I had just gotten back from being out of town visiting a friend. So literally got back, got a bag, joined my family up in Flagstaff, and met you and your friends. And we hung out. And so here's what's funny. I didn't know. I couldn't read her. My mom, who happened to be there, said, "Oh, I knew."
I laughed at all of his stupid jokes.
That's why she knew that she liked me.
So Sarah met your mom before you guys actually started dating?
Yeah, my whole family was there.
His whole family.
Yeah.
And that didn't scare you off, Sarah? You were good to go after that?
Yeah. So then after that, we did exchange numbers at this point.
Yes.
And so you had invited me over to a house opening, or you had bought a condo and had a housewarming party.
Yep.
And then I was going to make you dinner one night, and then at the last minute, you changed.
I called an audible, and I invited him to happy hour.
Happy hour instead, and I'm like, again, I couldn't read her, and so then finally, like after that night, and funny enough, I had a date with somebody else that I just went out with, and
hello.
And so no, this is a good part of the story because, Hey Jealousy, Jim Blossom's song, played a part, and finally her making her mind up. While I was there, she had called me. I said, "Hey, I'm out with friends. Can I call you back later?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, no worries." And she had known after the housewarming that I had that date.
Uh-huh.
So the jealousy kicked in a little bit, and finally, she was like, "Nope, I'm interested."
Yep.
So she made her intentions clear.
That's how the fire got lit.
Fire got lit.
A little jealousy.
And after that, we've been together ever since.
Yeah.
How long between you first dated till you got married?
Oh gosh, 2 years.
We got engaged in a year.
A little after a year and a half, I think.
And then so his sister got married 6 months before we did. So we wanted to wait
like keep some distance
a little bit,
the two weddings and whatnot.
so that it wasn't a boom boom.
So we had like an 18-month engagement.
I think so.
Yeah, an 18-month engagement. So we got married in March 2020. Oh, sorry,
good.
March 2010.
2010.
2010. Not
I thought you'd been longer than 6 years. That's okay.
Yeah, no, 2010.
I went to Iowa State. My math not very good anyway. So.
Yeah.
And then I remember, and I'm going to change the subject here a little bit because I love bouncing around, but I remember laying on the couch one night watching House Hunters.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, I think I know that lady on there. What is going on? So tell the Liars Club how you ended up getting on House Hunters and that whole process, if you would.
I would. So, we were in the process of buying this house actually and searching for a house, and we ended up with this one. And my realtor, when we gone out, said, you guys were really fun. Make me a video and I'll submit it to House Hunters, because she had been on it before. And we were in the middle of wedding planning. So I kind of at first blew her off. And she goes, hey, where's my video? And so she kind of really pushed me on it. So we had a friend come over. At this time, this was pre-iPhone, or at least before we had iPhones. We had a Sony Cybershot that we put on video mode, and we had her film at her condo that we were living at why it was too small for us. And so it was very dramatic and exaggerated and whatnot. And
we used all of our acting chops.
Yep. So I just used basic video editing on I think it was Windows Movie Maker was what they called on the laptop, and put it on YouTube, sent the link, and we got picked. So what was interesting was we were, the day we took possession of the house is the day that we filmed. And so at first I'm like, but how are we going to do this? We've already picked the house. And they said, oh, it's fake. It's reenactment and whatnot.
Yeah.
They just picked some random houses. So we filmed, I think, her condo day 1. We took possession of this house day 2. And then as soon as they were done filming, we literally, like, every night we're painting like the house and like getting ready to move in every single night after we were filming. Then we filmed the third day, and it was just at another house they just picked, and then they were going to come back. And the funny story was that was in, I think, November.
Yes. And
they were going to come back in February.
Something like
in February. We both ran the P.F. Chang's Rock and Roll Half Marathon. And when I did half marathons, tend to drop a lot of weight. So I dropped 25 pounds between November and the race. And so they put the prior shot that they did, and so they're like, you can tell, like, right here. So they sent me back to home to go get a mock turtleneck and to slouch to make myself look heavier. And then your hair was like...
My hair was like 3 or 4 inches longer than it was the prior day.
Yeah. So they made her pull her hair up so you couldn't tell that it had grown that much. And so we filmed the third random house. And then the next day was when they filmed, the 3 months later follow-up. Yeah. So they told me, said, hey, wear something slimming and shave off your mustache and goatee so you look different. So it was funny. Like, I mean, it was a lot of fun, but yeah, it was 5 8-hour days of filming for a 22-minute episode.
No kidding.
Yeah. So, but notoriety. I mean, it's funny. Like, back then we were at the gas station. We don't know, strangers would be like, I just saw you on House Hunters the other day, and I was on some panel at Arizona State University just talking to some, I think they were high school kids or college kids, and I mentioned, like, what's a fun fact, and I mentioned that as a fun fact, and some kid goes, I know, I've seen you. And I'm like, what is a high school kid watching House Hunters? So it was fun.
Did you get anything out of it other than just the enjoyment of being on House Hunters?
Enough so that we didn't get a 1099 that year.
Basically.
Thank you, accountant.
Yep. Got a little compensation, but it's not much.
Oh, good. Would you do it again? Was it fun enough that you would do it again?
It was fun. It was fun. I think I've done it once. I don't need to do it again.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
It's always fun to use that as your 2 truths and a lie or something like that. So.
Agreed.
Yeah, I know. I was in a plane crash, so that's one of my 2 truths and a lie that nobody ever can figure out. So.
Yeah. Oh boy.
On a job
Wait.
interview, yeah, the landing gear didn't come down, and we had to land on the belly in St. Louis. It was,
Oh no. I've never heard that story.
yeah. I had to call Susie, the boss. I had to call the boss to let her know I
It's
wasn't
Susan, right? She goes
Yeah.
by Susan on the show.
professionally, Susan or the boss. It's an awkward call to say, hey, I just want you to know everything's fine. Oh my gosh, what's going on? Everything's fine. I was in a plane crash. What? Slid down the wing, had to get on the bus. There was 3 or 4 ambulances, 2 or 3 fire trucks. I had to go out the side of it was a prop plane, so I had to go the side of the windows, down the wings. But the crazy part about it is they were still taxiing other airplanes to take off. So you'd see all these people staring at a crashed airplane, getting ready to take off. So which is worse, landing belly or being in another plane, seeing a plane crash going, oh my gosh, look at that. So the moral of the story is if we're on the same flight, chances of me being another plane crash are slim to none. So we're good. We'll make it.
All right.
Perfect.
Good to know.
Good to know. Correct. Right.
Yeah.
All right. So we got through House Hunters, got through college or jobs. Let's talk about the musical career. How do we get to where we're at right now? Well, and for both of you, right? Because I know that I've seen some clips where Sara has been singing along and participating in some things. So get us to here, right? We're from started our jobs, got married, getting back into music.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go.
Yeah. So, like I said, I probably during the 2000s, in the mid 2000s, just before we met, I did try to go to a lot of open mics and things around the Tempe area music scene. And Tempe in the 90s, when I was in college, it's interesting that I wasn't doing music, but there was a huge music scene out there. That's when bands like the Gin Blossoms, the Refreshments, the Pistoleros, and so on. And then also Jimmy Eat World was actually just getting started as well out here. So there was definitely a music scene that I used to go to shows and have a lot of friends, at those shows. And so I was, 2005, was just going to Yucca Tap Room and some of these other venues, just doing the open mics, trying to meet other musicians, and met some people, but it just didn't really happen or take off at that point. And as, again, we're together, I'm continuing on, played in a corporate rock band, did a little bit of a recording project with some friends here back in around 2010, 2011. But it was probably around the pandemic, ironically, when we were quarantined out here. And it was, it was just the two of us. And so I said, you know what, let's start doing, remember the show Total Request Live on MTV? TRL.
1,000%, yes.
Yeah, we called it Total Quarantine Live. And I said, let's just pick a cover song and I'll learn it. And then we'll get on YouTube and we'll start like just putting these videos on YouTube and Facebook and social media, and just to bring some joy and fun.
Yep.
So that started it. And it was funny during the pandemic. That's where really, because I had extra time, music started to take off. A good friend of mine asked me to give her husband bass lessons. And so I was through FaceTime, was giving her husband bass lessons. And really that kind of rediscovered my love of music and whatnot and the bass. So I was doing that. And then right around 2021, excuse me, I gotten a Mac Mini with Logic, and I recorded just a demo of one of the songs I had written, put it out on Facebook.
And played all the instruments.
I played all the
sang.
instruments and,
Oh, wow.
and everything. And so, anyways, put it out there. And a few days later, a mutual friend of mine that I worked with had passed along the video to her husband. And her husband, Steve Jones, had a band called Los Jones. And he reached out and said, hey, I really like, the song, what you're doing. We're looking for a bass player. Would you be interested in auditioning? And I said, yeah, sure. I'd actually gone. Val had invited us to a show at one of the venues at your Time Out Lounge to go see them and whatnot. And definitely had that Tempe indie rock sound out here. So auditioned and joined the band and, learned 12, 15 songs
At least.
on bass, just like studied some old shows and whatnot. And, started rehearsing with them in February of 2021. And then by June of 2021, we had our first show at Yucca Tap Room, which is a legendary live music venue out here. And this is, again, with the pandemic, like people weren't going to shows anymore. And so this is the first show where we're sort of starting to get out of the pandemic. And we had, 150 people show up to that show. Yeah. And it was just a ton of fun. And so ended up playing with them on bass for about 3 years or so, and like learned a ton. I played shows, played at different venues in Tucson, in Bisbee, played a music festival down there called the Cy Pony Music Festival, which has like 100 to 200 bands in this little cool little old mining town. But then around this time, I was still writing, and we did a couple of my songs. But we were at a restaurant. What really started it was Board and Batten, was this restaurant we loved going to. And actually, we've taken you guys there.
Yep.
You and Susie.
I'm shaking my head. Yes.
Yeah.
See.
So we were there with some friends of yours, and Chef Tony came over, or no, Veronica came over. The manager goes, "Hey, Chef Tony wants to meet you." And she said that he had said there's a musician that comes here and posts, and he wanted to talk about music. I said, okay. So they brought over Chef Tony. I talked to him. And he goes, "Yeah, I'd like to have someone to, try getting some music here." And so I'm asking questions like acoustic, you want covers, originals? Like, oh, whatever. I'm like, okay, well, let me check my network and I'll get back to you. And so as soon as he leaves,
I was like, he's not asking for your network. He's talking about you. He wants you to come and play, Pablo.
and I'm like, nah, really? And so we've gone out to drinks with Veronica and Aaron, who's her boyfriend, who's also the head bartender there. And he's like, yes, he was asking you. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so that was my first foray into trying something acoustic and solo. And so we started there, played like monthly for a little bit there. And we called it Pablo Acoustic Live, PAL. And then in another place nearby, Goldwater Brewery, that we love, they had come to see me perform, and then, they expressed interest. And so there's just a lot of fun, and it was just fun to explore these songs I've written over the years that I really hadn't done much with, to see like what there was there. And so it was probably right around March of 2024, I think it is, if I'm doing the math, that I really kind of realized I wanted to go see what I can do with this music. And I had recorded an EP album with Los Jones and learned a ton from that process, but I wanted to really see about, what it would be like to take these songs and record my album. So a mutual friend of mine that I met through Los Jones, Craig Wallach, he had recorded an album himself. And so I asked him out for beer, said, let's go grab a beer, and just asked him like, hey, like, what was your process? And so he said, I worked with Thomas Laufenberg, who's a buddy of his that he's known through the years. And Thomas was the lead guitar player for a legendary band out here called the Pistoleros. He's like, let me check to see if Thomas would be interested in producing. I'm like, okay. And so he was. And so we got together with Craig and Thomas as my two co-producers. And that was right about March of 2024. So I spent for the past almost 2 years, every Sunday night for about 2 to 3 hours at Thomas's studio in Scottsdale, working on these songs and whatnot. And between the playing live acoustic and recording the album and then also doing those shows, I kind of realized that for me, there was a pull to try to explore this and see it through. So let the guys know, with like 3 months notice, saying, hey, after this show in May, I'm going to be stepping down and pursuing this. And what was really kind of cool was the final show that we ended up playing with the band was Hotel Congress, is a very legendary venue in Tucson, Arizona. And we got booked to play there with a friend of ours, the Craig Green Band. And that venue's got, it's just got such history. Like Linda Ronstadt and all these bands from back in the 70s and 60s used to play there. So that was the final show. So it was really two cool bookends for my time in the band, Yucca Tap Room and then Hotel Congress. And then following that, it was kind of, again, doing some acoustic shows, but then really kind of going full force into working with these guys. And it was just the three of us. So we were in the studio collectively arranging the songs, for a recording, playing the instruments, singing and whatnot. And that really was the beginning of the journey of what became, and I'll hold it up right here, the 30-Year Distraction album right here.
No, that's all. Well, so then do you have a favorite genre you like to play or style?
Yeah.
What do you like, Pablo?
So it's funny. I love all kinds of music. And there's stuff that I love that I just cannot perform. It's just not my wheelhouse, whether it's voice and whatnot. But I've always loved Americana music, which is something that I kind of discovered because I grew up, my influences where I grew up, my parents listened to I was a 70s kid, so I grew up with the 70s Eagles, some of the easy listening yacht rock stuff. My dad listened to Willie Nelson. And then I got into like some of in the 80s when I was, about third, fourth, fifth grade, into the hair metal, the end of the hair metal era.
Yep.
And what was interesting was when it came down to the 90s, which, again, everything shifted from hair metal to grunge. And when I started writing music, I knew that, if you wrote something in this genre this year, 2 years later, it was no longer marketable or whatnot. So I was like, I went backwards and I started studying 70s and 60s, The Doors, Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, Hendrix. And then I started kind of also exploring some of Zeppelin, actually getting back to bluegrass and folk, they had some bluegrass folk songs. And that was my first exposure to that genre of music. And that kind of sparked curiosity. So I've kind of gone in many different directions, but when it was time to do my music, the way I branded it is, and it's on the shirt here, but it is indie Americana pop with a splash of yacht rock. And what I love about Americana is Americana can take some of the old outlaw honky tonk sounds. It can take the punk energy. It takes the singer-songwriter eras of like the 70s of like Fleetwood Mac. I mentioned the Eagles, all those great bands from the 70s. And it's almost, I kind of view it like really great hooky song that's not necessarily mainstream, but it's also got no boundaries. And that's what's really kind of cool about the whole Americana. And then I really start to get exposed to the indie sound. And when we're in the studio, Thomas, the producer that I work with, was like, you don't shy away from these pop hooks. And that's, I'm like, you know what? Then let's put that on there as part of the branding. So it's indie Americana pop with a splash of yacht rock. And that's because all that easy listening stuff that our parents listened to that we were embarrassed to, they called it elevator music back in the day.
Yep.
Now I love that stuff. And it's like, and you know what? And it was popular then and it's popular now because it had good pop hooks that were just catchy and memorable. And they're timeless. And that's what I was really focusing on with my music, is I want it to be timeless. I didn't want to, pigeon myself in a style that genres change. And now what I'm focusing on is no longer marketable or sellable.
Absolutely. And Sarah, do you have a favorite that you like to listen? I'm sure, again, you don't have to say you love all of his music because we know you do. Is there a favorite style that when he gets to picking away at the guitar that you like to listen to?
I mean, I would say probably like slow love songs and things like that. Like he's amazing. Whenever he wants to learn a song, it takes him all of 5 minutes to look it up and figure it out on the guitar. So I'm just in awe whenever he picks up a guitar and can play my favorite song. And so we get to sing along to it. I get a concert in the front room every once in a while, more often than not right now. So that's even better.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and so help me understand, and I'm not very creative because I'm a scientist, right? How does one go about writing your own song, right? Do you do the words first and then the music and the lyrics, or do you vice versa? How do you do your songs?
It all depends.
Come on.
No. So I'll give you some examples. There's some songs I joke around that I say they've written themselves. So I'll say, for example, Awkwardness is a bluesy doo-wop song that's on the album. And that is a song that, this is actually kind of a funny story. I had gotten out of a long-term relationship and went to a concert with some friends and bumped into my ex. And when you think you're good, and okay, I'm good, and then you see them like, oh, this is awkward. And so went out with the friends afterwards, did some drinking, and came back. And probably about 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, got my guitar and started drinking. And I got notepad and wrote out some lyrics and some chords over them. And so I woke up the next morning and I saw this, sheet of paper with lyrics and chords. I'm like, huh. And the very bottom it said.
Were you hungover? Like, what in the world?
I was. I was probably hungover. And at the very bottom, I put a note that says, check your voicemail. I called because I didn't have the ability. It was a flip phone, I think, at the time. I called my voicemail and sang the song into it. So that song wrote itself, that I barely remember writing.
You could say don't ever cross my mind. You could say my feelings for you are done. But if it's true, why ain't this awkwardness gone?
Well, I love how you had to write yourself a note to check your voicemail as if you didn't know you had a voicemail that was 2 minutes, 30 seconds long.
Yeah, exactly. So that, and it's funny because once I listened to it, and I think that's a thing like I've taken from that as well. You know, your iPhones have little voice memos. I'm constantly doing voice memos. You can write lyrics and this and that, but if there's a melody that gets in your head, record it, immediately just hum it, something, because the next day you're like, how did that go? And you're going to forget it. So that's one example of one that literally wrote itself. Forever With You is another one I'll say that wrote rather quickly. It was our 5-year wedding anniversary. And for 5 years, the gift was wood. And so I said, well, let me write an acoustic song, record everything that's on acoustics.
What was the gift?
I knew you were going to go there. Wood.
Okay. I thought I heard that. I just wanted to make sure because I can remember. What, 5 years?
Oh, that's funny. So I literally had just got the guitar and I just started playing this little progression. And I'm like, huh. And so I just paused, but I did a little memo on it. Came back, started playing it again after work. And I got the harmonica and did this melody, and literally within like 30 minutes, wrote the whole song in 30 minutes there.
Can you believe it's been all these years since we said I do? And all the memories makes me smile. It's all because of you. You're the love of my life. Oh, my darling, how you shine. I'm yours and you are mine, and I'll stay forever with you. Through all ups and downs, you're my future that I found. Our adventures have no bounds, and I'll stay forever with you.
And it is a very kind of, it's called Forever With You. It's on the album. It's a very celebratory type of song. So I went in, I had a different Mac at the time. It was an older Mac. And so I went in and did sequenced all the instruments. And I don't play drums. So I got a cajon, which is a wooden box that you can sit on and play like a percussion. So I got a mic, and I literally, because of my lack of drumming skills, like hit the drum beat where I'm like, boom, boom, boom. And that was one take. And then I got a wooden tambourine. And I'm like, hit the tambourine in the next one. And that was my bass line for the percussion. And then I did bass and vocals. And that early version, our good friend Kartika actually came in and sang some background harmony vocals with me and whatnot and stuff. So it was fun. So so there's songs like that, but then there's songs that like, I'll look at the record here and like Identity Crisis, for example. That is a song that I had written the music pretty quickly, and I had prior versions of the lyrics, but I didn't love the lyrics. And I've done a multiple rewrites. I did another version. Actually, a good buddy of mine, Ryan Countryman, and I did another version where he added more of almost like it was a very like Rolling Stones type of vibe. He wanted to take more like a Guns N' Roses, a heavier vibe. But again, my voice can't handle singing that. And so right around the pandemic, at the end of it, we were driving back from Tucson to see my family, and we hadn't seen my family the year before because of COVID. And it was just kind of reflecting on this crazy time that we went through. And I finally had this concept of identity crisis of what could those, so the chorus and everything was the same. It was the verses that tell the story to make that connection. You were driving. I literally had my iPhone with the notes, and I just was chatting away, just putting some lyrics down, and that became what the song is today. And so that one again started in 2004 and didn't get finished till just recently.
Times like this sparked within me deep reality. In a world that changed overnight, praying to God we make it out alive. 'Cause sometimes I get so lost in my mind, in the good enough for them, wondering who am I. Sometimes I just wanna feel like me. It's been a long, long time.
So that's why I say it all depends. There's through what I'll share is through the process of working with two producers, Craig Wallach and Thomas Lockenberg. Not only were they, obviously helping to shape the songs, but really also challenging me on how like the lyrics were, the music was, to expand about what's my comfort zone and whatnot. So there were actually a couple songs that we actually did a complete rewrite with them, and it was enough of a rewrite that I'm like, no, you guys are now co-writers on this song here. So I've learned, I think, a ton, working with them. The most recent was 30-Year Distraction. That's the one where I love the music. I came up with it. It was some blues book I found. And I started playing it, but I thought, what if I did it backwards? So I inverted it, and then I changed the key, and it sounded very cool. It had like a very Beatlesque progression to it. And I'd written, that was probably 2005, 2003. I'd written lyrics that I just didn't like. And I brought it to other songwriters and friends of mine, and nothing came to fruition. This was the last song I brought to these guys in the studio when I knew I wanted the last song on the album. And just the brilliance of their songwriting, and a fresh eyes on the song, and just stepping away saying, I've been too close to the canvas. Let's see what you guys can do with this and help me out. We came up with just a killer final song called 30-Year Distraction.
30-year distraction, a chemical reaction. North Star reflection shines on your actions to get you there.
So Sarah, when you're driving around and he's doing some vocals on his phone, are you the background harmony singers in the background? Do you poke fun at him or anything like, Pablo, that's not going to work, we need to try something different?
Definitely not poking fun. It's his outlet. So I usually don't try to chime in until he says, I think you would be really good on this part.
Yeah.
And so I am able to sing along with some of the songs.
Yep. Yeah, she is. Actually, and there's a song on here, on the album which was originally going to be the title track of the album. It's called Partner in Crime. And it was written, we were in Rocky Point, Mexico, which is a tourist beach down there. It's only like 4 hours from here in Phoenix, Arizona to drive there. We were there for a music festival. I was on the beach, and there was a mariachi band playing down the way. And also I just had this idea for a song. So I literally got some cocktail napkins and just started scribbling down lyrics. And we had a guitar back in the room. So I just started strumming the guitar, and I came up with this song. And it's about that partner in crime in your life, that special someone who's, your romantic someone that is good for you in your life, but also good, but fun in the sense that there's someone to go out and, have a nightlife and cause some good trouble out there and whatnot. And that's, Sarah to me. So when I wrote it saying, hey, I wrote this about you, I want you to sing the chorus part. And so when we changed the key in the studio, because Thomas goes, hey, I think you're actually singing the wrong key for both of you. We changed it, and it was a little higher. And kudos to her. We started singing it, and she's like, oh, but that's high, high. And so I said, well, do me a favor. I'm like, imagine you're Linda Ronstadt, channel your inner Linda Ronstadt. And so I did this and I sound like Miss Piggy when I did it. Mi amor, you are one of a kind. Steal my corazón, my partner in crime. And I did my little falsetto for her, and then she did it. And I was just like, holy smokes, I've never heard your voice do that. That's amazing. And that's what's on the record. And it's just her just having her moment to shine, channeling her inner Linda Ronstadt.
And I never known someone quite like you. And I may love you all my life. Tonight
That's awesome. What have you written a song about a girl that ignores you and plays hard to get that you keep pestering for a date or anything?
Not yet, but that's going to be the next song I write.
I would thought that'd be your first song that you got out there of if only she could return a message. It would have been much better.
I know. It's everyone jokes around like why, and I think to her point though, it's like it's one of those when it's meant to be, it's meant to be, and I am a firm believer in that. Yeah. But yeah, at the time it was just like, what is the deal with this girl?
Well, Sarah, do you give inspiration or thoughts of, hey, how about this or how about that? Do you reach out, or is Pablo, do you just you're really I reach out
to her
right now? Do you?
Yeah, no, I do. I do. It's one of the things that, when I worked with Thomas and Craig, first day, we're like, what are the rules of engagement?
Yeah.
And I said, listen, I want candor. I want directness. We know we're trying to get to the best thing possible, best product. So let's not, dance around it. And so I say the same thing for her. I'm like, hey, like, I don't know about this. What do you think? Or if I think it's good and it's not, like, tell me. I'd rather hear from you before I go in front of a bunch of people and it's not what I think it is and whatnot. So I think there's quite a bit of times that I'll reach out to her. If I'm stuck on a lyric, I'll ask her sometimes, like, I don't know, like, I've got this, but it's not great. Any ideas that you have and things of that nature?
Exactly. Sometimes just getting stuck in traffic will allow him to create a song. So that's also a way. Yeah. Get him stuck in traffic again, and who knows what songs he'll come up with.
Yeah. I actually literally recorded the voice memos on. I got the little thing that holds the iPhone, and I sat there and I thought of this hook in the chorus. So I just hit record, and sometimes you mentioned sometimes it's not even the lyrics. Like I'll just do like scatting. I was like ooh, blah 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 blah, and I just started just scatting some words. And then when I got home, I listened to it, and then I write the words later on. But there's others where I start with the words first, and there's no music. So it all just varies in the moment. And I just kind of go where the song takes me, but I also know sometimes if it's feeling forced, then you step away. And that's why there's songs that literally I've had a 20-year break in between and whatnot, because I just knew that it needed space. It wasn't ready yet.
I will say you're a better person than I am, because when I'm stuck in traffic, the last thing I'm thinking about are lyrics and songs. Not that Des Moines has any traffic compared to the Phoenix area, mind you.
Yeah. So, but no, as far as the journey of the music, so that was the beginning. We're starting recording this album. And again, when I started, I had no band. It was me, Thomas, and Craig. The first few songs, I was playing the bass or I played rhythm guitar, and Craig doing an amazing job with his harmony vocal. I mean, just gorgeous voice, but gorgeous harmony vocals and lead guitar parts, and Thomas as well, with just some really cool ideas there on the album. But right about the time that we were done with the first three, I'm like, I'm getting the itch. I want to bring this to life. And so I reached out I got some talented friends. And so one of my buddies who's reached out, and he actually had a Pablo Poor Decisions shirt. Dave Fogel, he's the bass player in the band, sent me a picture with him in a cowboy hat. I'm like, I would never. And this guy is a Southern California skater boy who wears Vans, and he's got a cowboy hat with my shirt, and he plays also on top of the Pablo and the Poor Decisions. Plays in a country band, and so I was like, oh, and I figured he was overly committed, and I'm like, hey, I'm looking for a bass player, but I can't play bass because I was playing bass in Los Jones. He's one of the best ones that I know of, and so he goes, if you need a bass player, let me know. And so he started it, and then Brad Nelson, who's a buddy of mine that sat in for the initial launch of Pablo and the Poor Decisions on drums, and we all played in that corporate rock band together. And then Kellen Thomas was a drummer that Dave was playing in another cover band occasionally. And so once we brought them together, it was bringing these songs that were recorded to start out with and learning them and then bringing them to the stage. And, since then we brought in James McCrae as drums. Brad stepped down, and James, interestingly enough, has played music with me and Dave in that corporate band. And he also played in that, they're called, Minivan Metal is the name of their cover band. And so there's just such great chemistry, musical history with all four of us that's part of it, is when you've got good, and first off, they're great guys.
Yeah.
but they're wickedly talented. I joke around, I'm the crappiest musician in the band. Yeah, I wouldn't have it any other way, because you always surround yourself with people that are better than you to make you grow and get better. But they're also just a ton of fun and great on stage. And so yeah, we started, September of 24.
Oh, okay.
And then we started doing shows in 2025 and whatnot. And now we're getting ready to do our album release show.
And that was going to be my next question, right? How do you form a band? Is it the friends you know, the people you want to play with, you like to jam out with, or do you put one ad out in the paper and say, hey, we need a XYZ, right? It sounds like you know the guys or the girls and ask them if they want to, hey, we're trying something and you want to be a part of this.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I was lucky in this case. I you knew the guys, timing is right that they were available and whatnot. And I think if that would have been the case, I probably would have started to reach out to my network and be like, hey, I'm looking for this particular musician, and see just by word of mouth within your network of friends and musicians if they knew of someone and whatnot. But I know people that also have done, postings on Facebook, or I don't even know if there's even a magazine or ad or whatever to put it on any day. And probably back in the day there was, but yeah, I think when you start in that's part of it. And then just, I think one of the key things for us, we're all in our 40s. And so you're juggling family, work, careers. We're not in college where you got all the time in the world. So I think also is kind of determining everyone's availability and capacity and commitment is what I would describe as to, can we make this work with that? Because a lot of times that's what becomes the challenges, is just everyone's schedules being able to sync up to commit to rehearsing, doing shows, things of that nature.
No, that's awesome. So as we round out this interview, which has been awesome, let our fans know the CD, the album, where to get it, where to get swags, all that type of stuff. Let's make sure we get that on here before we leave. All
right. Thank you. Yeah. So we do have a website, www.pablo and the pour, and pour is POUR, decisions, music.com. And that's where you get all the information on us, the shows. We do have a section in there where we have a merch section where you can go ahead and reach out if you're looking to purchase any of our merch. We have our CD that we'll be selling and be shipping in the next few weeks here, as well as we got shirts, we got metal tumblers, we've got some koozies, so all kinds of fun stuff. And we've been having fun with the brand Pablo and the Pour Decisions. And for anyone that looks up the logo, our neighbor and good friend who's so talented, Yadira, she's the one that actually designed this really cool logo. When you see it, it was actually a bottle pouring something into a glass, and it pours into the shape of a guitar. So just really creative. The inspiration was from that movie Cocktail with Tom Cruise back in the 80s. They had the Cocktails and Dreams neon sign. I showed that. I'm like, I want something like this. And she just knocked it out of the park.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, so let's end on this. Big thanks to Pablo for bringing the music, the stories, and the kind of charm that makes our worst ideas sound like good ones. And thank you to Sara for keeping him grounded, classing up the studio, and proving once again that the Bailey family tree grows nothing but legends. And of course, a shout out to our producer, Rachel, who somehow turns our chaos into something that actually sounds like a podcast. One of these days, we're going to get her on the mic. She keeps saying no, but the Liars Club knows we're patient, persistent, and not above bribing her with a pork chop on a stick and an Iowa craft beer. And for my co-host, he's still missing, but I'm getting warmer. Last report had someone matching his description, arguing with a trash panda over a slice of breakfast pizza behind the Casey's in town. If he shows up before next week, we'll put him back on the mic. If not, we'll send a search party with a pulled pork sandwich and a Bluetooth speaker playing Pablo and the Pour Decisions. That usually flushes him out. And hey, send us your stories and tall tales at agammoadventure@gmail.com. We want to hear what the Liars Club has been up to out there. Until next time, Liars Club, keep your stories big, your decisions questionable, and your coolers full. We'll see you next on Ag, Ammo, and Adventure.